Hey guys, today we're doing a run in Cepheus Protocol, and we're just playing as the Director's Cut, which is, I imagine, how it's supposed to be played. Now, this game is really interesting. It's an RTS where you fight against a zombie horde, led by a Patient Zero who starts off the infection. You start off on an aircraft carrier, and you're able to land your troops anywhere you want on a series of islands. We're going to aim for this one. I've played this game a few times before, always landing on this one really tiny island on the other side of this island chain, which only has a single bridge reaching it. It's super secure. But this time we're doing the opposite. We're landing on this big, heavily populated island, and we're going to try to break it off from the rest of the island chain and save everyone on it, essentially. And we'll just push forward as far as we can and take the fight to the infected as soon as possible and just save as many people as we can. Now, they did add these interesting news article things, and they are basically meant to give you a sense of where the infection is spreading. Now, you may have noticed it pulled me to an area on the island we're currently on. So that's not exactly ideal. And we do find Patient Zero. So, Patient Zero. Now, you might be thinking, well, there you go, you found her, just murder her right now, game over, you win, everyone is safe. Unfortunately, you're not able to kill Patient Zero until you gather 650 DNA and then research a tech. And anyway, so we could just fly around and shoot her, except she has an ability to leap up and shake down your helicopters. So if we move too close, she'll just knock down our helicopter essentially, and yeah, that wouldn't be ideal. So at any rate, we are just going to build our base here. We call down our capture truck. You only get one free one to call down. After that, they cost like 1,500, but we need to capture these various points in order to get income and to increase our population limit. The max population limit is 80. We're currently sitting at 14, and we have basically no income whatsoever. And then we locate Patient Zero one more time. We're just trying to figure out where she is exactly at any given point. As at this point, I realize we have a pretty decent opportunity one way or the other. So we unlock this Tier 2 tech, which allows us to build a motor pool and call in additional helicopters. And we call in a radio operator and a helicopter. Now, if Patient Zero stays on these islands, we can blow the bridges and the rest of the map is safe. The original goal was to blow the bridges and this area would be safe and the rest of the map would be left to their own devices. But this way we're going to save probably about 3 or 4 times as many people. Now, Patient Zero does try to cross the bridge, but we managed to get her attention, unfortunately a little too well. And here you see what I was talking about, the ability to just leap up and take down your helicopter. One thing I didn't mention, and that is pretty critical. So I've played about 3 or 4 rounds before this. I won 1 round, but the others I lost because if your captain dies, you lose the game instantly. Now, our captain was on that helicopter. As you see, people don't die when the helicopter they're in is destroyed, which is fantastic. So we go ahead and use this cloak ability, this pretty nifty cloak ability, to run our captain away. It looks like Patient Zero kind of clipped up and down a little bit. Yeah. So, at any rate, they are able to cause a little bit of damage to her. We have an assault trooper, which is just our basic infantry, and the pilot somehow manages to jump out as well. Your captain also has an ability to launch a flashbang grenade. So that stuns Patient Zero and any infected of any sort, and gives us the opportunity to run our forces out of there, which we pretty quickly take advantage of. Now, this whole time, we have also been doing the base building aspect of the game, which is essentially just deploying this capture truck, building a command tent, undeploying the capture truck, and running it somewhere else. Meanwhile, our forces just kind of run away. I'm very thankful that I spent almost all my money getting phase 2 so we could get helicopters. So the loss of the 1 It is unfortunate, but it isn't the end of the world, and we are able to stay mobile. and by that red box, that indicates that the infection is spreading in that specific territory. So any box that is just black, ideally, and I'm fairly sure it's always correct, does not have an infection presence in the area. So looking around the map, we see just black boxes everywhere. So that's pretty fantastic. There's really no reason for me to blow the bridge if the infection has already spread. And if anything, we'd probably want to lure Patient Zero across the bridge and go back to our original plan of just securing this main island. This one is the base I always take, that tiny island in the corner there. At any rate, nowhere outside of our initial island is infected. So we are going to call in an airstrike to blow the bridge. Airstrikes in this game cost 2,500 of your very precious in the early game money. I notice it does tend to stack up as the game progresses and you kind of lose the sense of urgency. But in the very beginning of the game, I think that's where this game shines. You have basically no resources, no troops. Neither do the zombies, though. They have very few infected. They do have one that you just kind of have to avoid, which I'm not in love with that game mechanic, but I think it does a fairly decent job of keeping the stakes up and keeping you both acting and also reacting. So I think it's a pretty solid middle ground. It also has a day-night cycle, as you're starting to be able to tell. Unfortunately, pathing isn't always ideal. We tried to send our capture truck not exactly directly across this road where Patient Zero hangs out. Luckily, though, it manages to make it through okay. And losing our capture truck isn't actually the biggest deal in the world. If we lose all of our capture trucks, we're able to call in another free one. So it isn't a game-ending disaster like losing your captain is. At any rate, we get a very large horde of infected. They tend to come out at night, and it is heading straight for this second bridge, so no further delay. We go ahead and launch a second airstrike, and it takes the bridge down, and we're able to just fly back and start picking off these infected. So we have contained them to this island, but just letting them run free here would kill the entire civilian population and just massively feed the horde. So any opportunity we have to pick off these hordes and just limit their size, we have to take, essentially. And that is essentially the game phase that we're in now. Just culling the horde to the extent that we're able and limiting their spread for as long as possible. Now, I would imagine if I were to do this very well and also keep expanding at just the maximum rate possible, then I might be able to save a decent portion of this island. At any rate, I'm just trying to slow down their spread, and we will see how that goes. I do call in an airstrike on this large spire that they build, and we do gain some XP, and it drops DNA. Now, DNA, as I mentioned, you need 650 of it in order to research shredder rounds and finally kill Patient Zero. They are collected only by scientists, which is a special type of infantry you can build. Once again, though, our helicopters provide just amazing cover for our troops and amazing mobility. It's kind of expensive to get phase 2 in the very early game, but in my mind, completely worth it. We wouldn't have even known that these infected were here, yet alone been able to intercept them without a helicopter. And when that one squad saw Patient Zero, they would have just died. Even though she can leap at helicopters, you're really just going to be... you're going to have better odds, essentially, if you're in a helicopter and can just flee at the rate of a helicopter, essentially. Now, this small structure is a spine thrower, and when it's fully constructed, it launches spines that kill your soldiers instantly and can also shoot down your helicopters in short order. They use those to defend their bases, and yeah, they're very difficult to deal with, at least in my experience. At any rate, we move our soldiers up with one squad on the ground and the other performing overwatch from the air. I noticed that helicopter-bound troops, they have tremendous mobility, but they do get kills at a significantly lower rate than troops on the ground. So having a mixed force is definitely more viable than not. Unfortunately, I left my scientist in the helicopter. We go ahead and land him. He's the guy with the 3 circles. We move our forces up to defend this choke and find patient 0. So that is obviously not ideal, but we've had success using the flashbang of our captain. So we try to lead her off. Unfortunately, it does not stun her, and we could very potentially lose the game right here. Luckily, she does not leap at either of our helicopters. So yeah, definitely worth it. So I spend the rest of the night trying to kill these spires. It's a very slow process with infantry, and airstrikes are too expensive at this stage of the game. So I probably could have done a much better job stopping the infection from spreading. At any rate, we try to blow this bridge. It does not blow. And a Juggernaut appears. So Juggernauts are, the tank zombie. They are large, they charge your forces, they throw massive boulders, which could be used to destroy helicopters unless you micro them like I just did. Now, another cool feature in this game is that you're able to unload helicopters and drop troops off on rooftops. It makes sense that you could, just most games wouldn't let you. Unfortunately, this helicopter is destroyed. Once again, though, the troops completely fine. But yeah, so we're able to just drop these guys off on the rooftops, and the zombies, of course, aren't able to follow. They are able to throw these massive boulders, which is not ideal, but with a little bit of micro, we can avoid them causing really too much damage. So yeah, now we're just going to form a couple gun lines. We're able to change the formations of our troops to do this. Set them right on the edge, or as close as we can. And they'll now just shoot over, either at the Juggernaut or at the horde of zombies that are following. And unfortunately, he is able to snipe that helicopter. The pilot does land okay. And I do try to save this guy. We just kind of run him off in the opposite direction. A lot of the zombies are aggroing against our soldiers on the rooftops. And we are able to avoid the Juggernaut strike and call in an airstrike just to try to clean up all the small ones and hopefully kill the Juggernaut. Unfortunately, he's being chased by some fast zombies and is infected. So that's not ideal. Luckily, the Juggernaut is contained. He is killing a few of our troops with these boulders. And yeah, that's just something that's going to happen. We really can't focus all of our attention here. There's more fights to be fought, more microing to be done. Luckily, it has been killed. So yeah, those things are just absolutely stressful. Just the most stressful things to deal with in this game, in my opinion. But we do have roughly 3 squads of soldiers still left over, so we go ahead and drop 2 off to try to just stymie this flood of infected. And we did drop a ammo drop here. That is another very, very important factor in this game, is your troops have a small amount of ammo, and if they're fighting too long without being resupplied, they will run out, and if you're lucky, you'll notice in time to drop them an ammo cache. If you're not, you'll notice when you get alerts that they are dying. So you'll notice I got an alert that they were dying, and that's because a Juggernaut is trying to breach our line. So yeah, not great at all. We have a heavy assault infantry able to just deploy his gun, and we start pulling the remainder of our forces from the surrounding area. You'll notice those red circles. Those represent zombies coming in to attack. Our forces, unfortunately, are prioritizing the Juggernaut, which, fair enough. However, with just a horde of zombies right on them, there may be some slightly better priorities there. We'll bring our helicopter over to try to maybe pick up these soldiers, but realistically, it's not going to get there in time. They're already surrounded. Yeah, it is a shame. One thing, it's kind of terrible to say, troops are fairly inexpensive in this game. They do rank up, and their ranks give them fairly significant bonuses to their combat ability. But troops are not really the most expensive thing in this game. I do, obviously it is better to try to save them, but there's just so many things in this game that can kill them quicker than you can notice. And it does take a bit of micro. There is a, if you hit the space bar, you go down to about 1/5, 1/6 speed. And that is, that is fantastic for giving orders to individual soldiers. But there's only so much that you can actually do if the situation is just terribly out of your favor. So for that squad that was just caught completely off guard, there's just too many areas to focus on to focus on them as well. At any rate, we were able to split the Juggernaut off from his horde, eliminate his horde, and you'll notice there's little gun icons. We're able to upgrade the guns of our individual soldiers. I haven't really messed with this yet. I do give this guy a gun that looks to have a grenade launcher option, although there is a tech tree. It's fairly small. I haven't researched the grenade launcher option yet. But, maybe I will eventually, and if I do and he just starts to, decimate the zombies, then that will be good to know. One other option that we are able to take advantage of is destroying trees and buses and things like that to clear out killing fields. So we do that and then push ahead, kind of rounding the corner, which is something you should never do in this game. Corners are really just death traps. There's no real sense of cover in this game, except for the zombies, obviously, since your troops have guns and they are relying on melee. Once we pull off into the center of the street, though, we're able to make quick work of them and push up. This is one of those areas, though, where calling in an ammo supply drop is basically just necessary, because your troops will burn through their rounds very quickly. So at this point, this is the state of the map. We have a giant dead zone where the infection exists. We have set up defenses. We're getting artillery now, which is very expensive up front, 12,000. But you see we were just able to destroy that Juggernaut with some lucky shots. A lot of infected have been pushing through in the break. You'll notice our forces are really just brought down terribly. Luckily, though, they do have ammunition, and there are enough of them, and they're weak enough zombies that they're able to push through. The Juggernauts, of course, do avoid artillery most of the time, and you are able to make your troops sprint. Unfortunately, there are those sprinting zombies. You saw that one just get taken out. And Juggernauts have no qualms about just running into the center of a large group of troops. Luckily, that usually kills them quickly. I also build up a quick little civilian hold. You can get essentially just a few civilians will trickle in, and you're able to collect them and send them off or keep them in containment facilities. So we do get that. There is still a small population in the area, and we're just facing an outrageous amount of Juggernauts. In the 4 or so games that I've played before this, I've seen maybe 3 Juggernauts. Luckily, the artillery makes quick work of that guy. So I'm not sure what it is about this particular playthrough, but there were just a ton. And you also saw that we were building base defenses all across these bridge choke points. Here you see this one actually managing to hold the line. That's freeing up considerable amounts of troops and letting us just funnel them to the wide open area that our base is centered around. We do get yet another Juggernaut, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, I cropped out footage of us killing probably twice as many as this. Like, it's just an absurd amount. There's really been almost no regular zombies compared to these Juggernauts. Luckily, whenever they get clipped on something, we're able to just kill them with artillery, or whenever they pull up a bit of debris. We do finally build defenses on this area. You'll see there's no zombies, but also no people left. So it looks like they've consolidated elsewhere. There is still a civilian population here, 2,300 or so. And here, 645. Yet another Juggernaut is coming in. This one, you'll see they do have a little bit of pathing issues from time to time. However, that doesn't stop him from grabbing a boulder, which he will almost assuredly throw at our precious defenses. Luckily, it's not a human life, just some robot turret, and we can replace it fairly easily. Alright, so all that said and done, we're now able to start using artillery on these spires and pushing out. With the rest of our base defended with automatic turrets, the only place where our soldiers really need to be are places where we're actively moving. Now there is a limit on turrets. You're limited to 20 turrets of all types, which I didn't realize until I was denied the ability to build any extras. But it looks like we're finding out where all the zombies went, and that is into those juggernauts. For essentially the entirety of this day, day 4, and this night, we've basically not seen any zombies, at least after the midday. Now, we do need 650 DNA in order to research shredder rounds and kill patient 0. So, for that, and just for the sake of cleaning up the area in case there are more zombies at some later point, we do go ahead and just purge the entire area. This game also has an operator feature where you're able to play in third person, and I did that and died pretty much instantly to this zombie lieutenant. Now, I didn't realize this at the moment, but there's the triangle symbol for the zombie lieutenant. That indicates, essentially that they're a zombie lieutenant. I thought it was patient 0, and so I kind of just tried to rally every single person that I could to kill her and win the game. Launching an airstrike very close to our forces. They don't actually do any damage outside of the shown graphic, so they're actually safe, even though that is incredibly dangerous looking. And yeah, we get a bit of a DNA reward, but we don't win the game, and that's how I realized that was just a lieutenant. So we look where we found patient 0 originally, and there she is. Unfortunately, it appears she does have a bit of a clipping issue, but since all of her zombie hordes are already destroyed, there's really no chance that she'll be able to do anything too significant against us at this point. We begin an artillery barrage with every single gun that we've got, and just bring them all to bear against her, while our soldiers from a distance are just laying into her with their rifles, not actually achieving anything though. But nevertheless, the combined force is going to be more than enough. And just like that, with the vast majority of the population alive, we've won the game. Thank you for watching.